Welcome back. Welcome to the Georgia Hour. Now, I'm making an effort. I am BKP, your host, every day at 10 o'clock, and I know it is 10:22. I am doing a segment called the Georgia Hour where I can separate Georgia news and information. I could separate that from our national. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but Trump and everything happening nationally, I'm trying to make sure I cover everything, and it's pushing me out into the 10 o'clock hour. So I'm going to try everything I can. I don't want to say to get organized, Diane, because I'm pretty organized. I mean, I'm organized as far as the segments I do and so forth. All right, now I'm your host, BKP. You're watching the Georgia Hour. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Diane. Here's a couple things going on. So we're in the Georgia legislative session. So hold on. I'll write this down. Black. Hold on, Diane. I got to write this down. All right, I got it pretty close. I think I've got it pretty close. I got something in a minute I want to show you. So yesterday I went down to the Capitol, and last week, and let me just say this to you, okay? I can't stand political stunts. I can't stand political stunts. It just bothers me. I can't stand corruption. It really bothers me. And I don't have the ability, I want to say the ability not to address it. I don't have the ability to leave it alone. And it's caused a lot of friction. It's caused me a lot of problems. When I say financially, it's caused me financially. People won't donate or support or advertise because they never know on what given day that they will be involved in some sort of possible corruption or something where I will not just turn a blind eye to the stunt. They never know. So that being said, now, so I go down to Georgia yesterday to the Capitol, and give me number 74. Now, here is Jon Burns and all of the summoned members of the Republican House that he could gather together. Remember, it's 100 to 80. So there's not quite 100. And the only reason all 100 Republicans are not standing behind Speaker of the House Jon Burns is because some of them were in the middle of committee hearings and things like that they could not walk out. But if you were not attending or had the space or could have gotten here, you need to be standing here or all hell breaks loose. That's the way they operate. So I stood there. I took this picture, and as you can see, you just get a feel of where I'm standing. And I'm looking at this group, and I'm looking at Jon Burns, and I'm thinking to myself, my God. I mean, just the evil that oozes under that gold dome and the corruption, and you feel like a demonic spirit floating. I'm serious. You just can't describe how bad it is when you go in there. And what is I'm going to get to the point here in a minute, but these people all pretend like they're unified and pretend like they get along and pretend like they support each other in so many ways. It's like, oh, are you serious? Anyhow, moving right along. So remember Greg Dolezal on the Senate side, which the Senate, right? The Senate in the state of Georgia, who presides over the Senate, but the lieutenant governor, Burt Jones. Now, let's put all this together while we're having a little fun. Now, Burt Jones, the lieutenant governor of Georgia, would like to be the next governor. And it's of my opinion, with my ear to the floor, that the current governor of Georgia, along with his wife, that would be Marty and Brian, they should do a show, right? Sonny and Cher. Anyhow, so the current governor, Brian Kemp, does not want Burt Jones to be governor. That's what the streets are saying. That's what the streets are saying. So, Burt Jones, lieutenant governor, presides, Republican of Georgia, presides over the Senate, right? So he's going to grab the MAGA issue of the legislative session, and he's going to use Greg Dolezal because that's what you do. And Greg Dolezal is going to chair a committee, and he's going to come out, and the Senate is going to say, we have legislation SB1. SB1, right? First one out of the box. We're going to stop biological boys from diving in the water with girls under the guise of being a girl, right? Gets confusing, but so the Senate's going to grab that. Burt Jones is going to grab that. He's going to have that. He's going to campaign with it. MAGA. Kemp does not want him to be governor. Now, Jon Burns, I watched. People went to the Capitol. Colton Moore got arrested, right? Got arrested. Jon Burns there, the guy at the podium with the Georgia state seal, kept him out of the state house, throwed him to the ground, put him over, got him arrested, got a mug shot, took him over to the hospital for x-rays. Everybody, Jon Burns needs to resign. Boom, 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 went everywhere. Everybody whooped up in a frenzy. There was interviews. There was segments. There was shows. Everything. Then there was the Support Colton Moore Day that they had last week. Was it last week? And I support Colton Moore. I mean, some people hear my segment and they think, wait a minute, where are you coming from? I support Colton Moore. I support the Freedom Caucus. I support Colton Moore. All the above. Now, that being said, then we had the next joint session, and Colton Moore was going to walk in, boom, own the place, and he did. And the media was there, and you were there, and you were fire Burns. Everybody's going to fire Burns. Right? But then after all this, and then Burt Jones, he gets MAGA accolades because he went over the next day after they threw Colton on the floor. He goes over the next day to Jon Burns' office and said, let me tell you something here, Johnny. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. It can't happen again. So we have Burt Jones on the ropes. Not for a second. Not Burt Jones. Back up, rewind the tape. We have Jon Burns on the rope. There I go. I get wound up. We have Jon Burns on the rope. Not for a second. Not for a second. So Jon Burns, the guy here, he gets invited to the White House. How did he get on that list? Right? How did he get on the list? How did he get on the list with the lieutenant governor? How did he get on the list in Georgia with representatives to go up there and be in the room? The man that had Colton Moore banished, the guy standing there, he gets to go to Atlanta. He gets to go to the Capitol. He's in the group photog. Jon Burns is the Speaker of the House of Georgia. And he's right there in the audience when President Trump signs the Laken Riley bill. Right there. Signs Laken Riley. He's in the group photog. Wonder if we're going to ever be able to get rid of him. Then, yesterday, so let me show you this. Oh, man, it is going to get ugly. Now, you have to watch out because we're going to be doing the segments of the plants. What is that? The people that are planted in your rooms to give people information, unbeknownst to you, that you think are on your side. Are you serious? Yes. I witnessed it yesterday. They got money. They put plants in place. They put spies in place. They have people stand next to you when you're talking. You really think that happens? Oh, hell yeah. I'll break it down. We're going to break it down. We're going to give you the no goods. What I mean, the no goods, right? Remember the movie The Goods? I love The Goods. The no goods. We're going to do the no goods. They're no good, man. And it's going to cause a lot of grief because I'm going to put some pictures up, and some of you are so starstruck by some of these people, and they're no good. You're not going to be happy when I finally do the list of no goods. All right, so, and it's sad because some of the no goods, I thought at one time were okay. Myself. Now, where am I at? So, that was yesterday. Now, let me tell you what's going on here. Now, this guy here, some of you like him. I do not. No, I don't like him. I don't like people under the guise of Christianity, under the guise of, pro-life. I don't like people that use those organizations for political gain. Number 73. This guy's name's Cole something, okay? And he's with Frontline Organization. Is it Frontline Organization? What is it, okay? I don't like the guy. I'm not going to call him a bad guy. That's between him and God. But I don't like the guy. There's a reason why. Let me tell you something. This is pretty bold. But darkness will not mix with the light. You ready? Darkness will not mix with the light. This guy's claims, okay? The claims of some of these people, man, they see me, they boom, 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 shoot the other way. They won't come around me. They will not come around me. This guy don't walk up and say, hey, Brother Pritchard, how are you? Nope. They won't come around me. Because they know that I see through every bit of this. So he is there with Frontline, and I'm going to tell you what they're doing. You're wondering, well, what's the big deal? Go back to Greg Dolezal. Now, today in Washington, D.C., this is all done for a reason. There's a reason why Jon Burns pulled his stunt yesterday, all right? There's a reason why he named his bill Protecting Girls Sports give me number. Where's it at here? Give me, had it here a minute ago. I know I had it this morning. Where's it at? Hang tight, Diane. Maybe I don't have it. There it is, number 10. Thank you, Diane, for your patience in all the world. Right? What is this? New Trump order will protect women's sports. So what you're telling me is there's going to be what you're telling me is there's going to be a ceremony today at the White House and an executive order to protect women's sports. And it's going to be, you got, what's her name there? You got Nancy Mace. Tomorrow, this was yesterday, all right? Tomorrow, we'll be at the White House as President Trump signs an executive order to protect women's sports. MAGA is the newest feminist. We hold the line because women, like Riley Gaines, are counting on it. So that's Riley Gaines. Now, we all know Riley Gaines. She's become a household name for women's sports. Swimmer, Georgia Tech, had to swim against a man, biological man. And she's done a good job bringing attention to it and fighting the battle for young ladies and women's sports. Hey, look, I had lunch with my granddaughter Sunday, and I asked my granddaughter, "Are you going to play softball?" Yep, went to evaluations the other day. So I want her to play softball in a girls' softball league. Now, this is where I tie it all together. Everything I've said, I'm going to tie together. So, Riley Gaines. Now, for those of you out there that think there's still a glimmer of hope that Jon Burns, the Speaker of the House of Georgia, is going somewhere, it's not going to happen. So what does Jon Burns do? All right? Because they don't want, give me number 74. This is a press conference yesterday. I was there, and every House member basically was there. Jon Burns is going nowhere. All right? So what they don't want to do, because my opinion, Brian Kemp does not want Burt Jones to own this. Brian Kemp does not want Burt Jones via Greg Dolezal in the Senate to come out with this bill and get the press and get the name to be able to campaign off of it. So Jon Burns, yesterday, the day before President Trump signs the executive order, he rushes out with his bill to protect girls' sports. And what's the name of the bill? The Riley Gaines bill. The Riley Gaines. Protect girls' sports. The Riley Gaines Act. Put the name with it, Riley Gaines. And then has this guy from Frontline, number 73, Cole, I forget his last name, in on the stunt. Riley Gaines, the bill. Jon Burns, Speaker of the House, presenting it yesterday, getting press on it, okay? But I thought the Senate did that already. No, Jon Burns for the block. Now, Burt Jones, there's no coincidence, the lieutenant governor, is in Washington, D.C. today. He's going to be joining President Trump today in signing this bill. I wonder if Jon Burns will be there. I don't know. But the lieutenant governor will be in Washington, D.C., Georgia's lieutenant governor, Burt Jones, as President Trump signs this executive order today protecting girls' sports. Did you catch on to the stunt and the circle? Lieutenant governor wants to be governor. Current governor does not want him to be governor, especially his wife. In fact, I think Brian Kemp is looking for that one candidate he can elevate. One candidate he can elevate. Now, here's what I understand. Because I was down there wandering the halls. I was pulling people aside, saying hello. I even had a meeting with Waffle House John yesterday. Yeah. John, whatever. Yeah, I bumped into him, said hello. We talked. We exchanged pleasantries. We're going to have coffee next week. He's the chairman of the Georgia State Election Board. Yes. There you go. So I went all around the Capitol. I pulled some people. Hey, how are you? How are you? They get nervous. So I figured since they were telling me lies, I would tell them one or two, just to throw it out there. Here, let me tell you this. No, it's a joke. So anyhow, here's what I do know. And I found out yesterday. There's major between the House and the Senate. Major. Between the House and the Senate. Major. So there you go. Jon Burns is not going anywhere. For anyone in Georgia that thinks that the Georgia Speaker of the House, Jon Burns, is going somewhere, he's not going anywhere. In fact, these people, they have no problem with him. No. And here's the thing. Watch this one here. I'm going to give you this one here, okay? Now, you remember when, and give me number 75, and look to the far right, or your left or right, whatever. You see the guy with his hand on the very end of the back of the guy with the gray hair? That's David Clark. You remember when David Clark hated David Ralston so bad that he, remember this. Now remember this. This is how this rolls. Do you remember when David Clark hated David Ralston so bad that he used a committee room and he brought the FBI, former FBI, Derek Somerville, to the Capitol, and they did a press conference where Derek Somerville laid out all of these, counts and claims against David Ralston with David Clark right next to him. And David Clark was one of the 10 that signed the get rid of David Ralston. Remember that? Remember the old days when David Clark? Now, you've got Speaker of the House, Jon Burns, who, heir apparent to David Ralston and cloned by David Ralston, and knows how to, as in my opinion, shuffle the coins around the state in his benefit like David Ralston. All the above, he's the Speaker of the House. And David Clark is a backslapper now. Oh, he doesn't push back. If that was David Ralston, and Jon Burns is no different, if that was David Ralston, there's no way David Clark would be standing right there. Now, when did David Clark flip? When did he flip? You remember the day David Clark had coffee with Kelly Loeffler? Remember that? Just saying. Take that down. All right. Now, we have a lot to go over. Tomorrow, I can only stay until 10:30. I have a physical therapy appointment. I told them over at physical therapy I couldn't get there till the afternoon. I need 1 o'clock appointments. And they said for my first one, I needed to come tomorrow. So I'm going to be here. Diane, I'm letting you know too, until 10:30 tomorrow, pre-planning. Now, the other thing I want to say is this right here. Number 71. Not a good person. Not a good one. Not a good one. Not a good one. Not a good one. This is not a good person. This is a bad person. This is a person that, very good grammar. He's an attorney. He can articulate a thought. He can manipulate a situation or a room or a crowd or an individual. But he's not a good person. I'm going to be laying some things out. Now, this is Josh McCoon, the chairman of the Georgia GOP. Now, I want to show you something here. And you must get the word to MAGA. Anyone, Debbie Doulis, the lady that, that can paint up them red lips, Candace Taylor, anyone that sends you over the top amazement from this guy here as MAGA is lying to you. Yes, that's a lie. Now, the Georgia, listen to me very, 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 very close. 4 varies, okay? The Georgia GOP, right? Inc., I-N-C, Georgia GOP, Inc. A dictator, Josh McCoon is a dictator. He is. That's the way it's laid out. He does not have to call anyone to get approval on anything in the Georgia GOP Inc. He doesn't have to, period. He's a dictator. All the state officers are obsolete. The state executive committee is obsolete. The state committee is obsolete. That just made a lot of people angry. But they can do no more or get the opportunity, what I say, to do no more than pick out the colors of the napkins and paper plates for their next, convention. That's it. They get no serious decision-making power. So I'm going to bring all this around. The Georgia GOP, Inc. has what's called an election integrity task force. I served on it for a year. I served on it for 1 year. Now, David Cross served on it. Candace Taylor served on it. I can go a whole list. There was like 23 people. Now, when I got elected first vice chair of the Georgia Republican Party, before this, the team got together and could not have me in the way at this current time. It wasn't the 2024 election. It's right now where I couldn't be in the way. So I was on as first vice chair of the Georgia Republican Party. I know of what I speak. I was on the Election Integrity Task Force, headed up by Brad Carver. Now, we had about 4 on-site meetings. I didn't miss a one. We went to that big office where Brad Carver works out of in Atlanta in a high rise. We had a meeting there. We had a meeting over at the Devil's Den where they have the Satan worship over there, or what I perceive. I perceive it's a very, very bad place. That's my perception. I want to be clear. You could have your own perception. You could take your kids and put them in the cage yourself. You could do whatever you want there. That's your business. Me, the Eagles Club. So you go over to the Eagles Club, and they had meetings, and I attended all those. And they put us into groups. And my group was to end. I was working with another gentleman in a team, and our group was to put in the legislation that we wanted to put to Georgia was to end drop boxes, and the reason why. So we did the research around the country of how many drop box states drop boxes are illegal. We put all that together, presented it, and we wanted it in the legislation. Now, the way it worked was Brad Carver, the chair of the Election Integrity Task Force for the Republican Party, we were all meeting well in advance of the legislative session. Now, keep this in mind. Well in advance of the legislative session. And we were putting together for 2024 a list of things that we wanted to happen in the 2024 legislative session. So right out of the box went the last year, right out of the box, we assembled that, put a piece of legislation together as the Georgia GOP, and we presented it. Now, we got SB 159, right? Was it 159 we ended up with? But we presented it immediately at the opening, well in advance of the Georgia GOP, or the Georgia legislative session last year, right? Everything. Then all through the legislative session, we had emails going back and forth, conversations going back and forth. We were talking to people down at the Gold Dome, trying to put a little pressure. Now, the RNC, let's keep this in mind, okay? The RNC passed a resolution saying that they supported paper ballots. We could not get, now at this time, I'm the first vice chair, and when they removed me, the attorney, they had a trial. When they removed me, the attorney that made their presentation kept saying, Do you want this guy to be a heartbeat away from? You realize he's a heartbeat away from? Oh, yeah. So we had a state committee meeting, right? And we could not get the Georgia GOP to sign on to the RNC saying we support paper ballots. And finally, thankfully, Sam Carnline from down there at the Redneck Riviera, he's from down that way. He stood up and put the pressure on this man in front of everybody to adopt the RNC. He wasn't leaving. We were having a meeting. We were there all day. He keeps asking, when are we going to adopt the RNC? Finally, there was so much pressure on him that we adopted that resolution. It did not go anywhere, but we adopted it. Now, the election is over. Here's where I'm going. He's a stunt man, all right? I'd like to shoot his ass out of a cannon. Anyhow, he's a stunt man. He pulls political stunts. He's a professional at it. This is a very good friend of the governor, Governor Kemp, Marty Kemp, all right? He's also may have some down the line ties to the lieutenant governor. Anyway, anyhow, we'll get there in a minute. So now it's this year. I have asked. I'm not on it anymore. They kicked my ass out. But Brad Carver is still the Election Integrity Task Force chairman for the Georgia GOP. Now, after the election in November, all right, we started talking about our constitutional officers in Georgia can't win. There's a possibility we lose. Now, we're going to come back here, all right? But in 2026, Trump won like 2.2. And I've had some people do analysis, and they know what they're doing. Georgia should have been like a 6.7 or a 6.2 state for Donald Trump. It went 2.2. Now, we'll just leave it here. Something's wrong, right? And we're trying to sound the alarm. When I say we, there's a team. We're trying to sound the alarm with people saying, look, unless you have a Trump Force 47, and you don't, unless you're going to have that kind of backing, and you won't, Donald Trump will not be on the ballot. You may not win in 2026. Georgia is set up for the possibility of constitutional offices going to Democrats, whether you believe it or not. Now, I'm going to get into him in just a minute. Now, I'm going to say something you're not going to like, but there's nothing I'm going to say that's not true. So this is number 65. Not the last election, because people were tired. But the first head-to-head matchup, Republicans in Georgia, Brian Kemp almost got beat by a black, lesbian, overweight woman with gap teeth. One more time, Stacey Abrams. Brian Kemp almost, the very first time out of the box. Georgia should have been, this person should have run against Brian Kemp first time out of the box. And Brian Kemp should have won by 4 to 6 points. But Brian Kemp came just that close of getting beat by a black woman, lesbian woman, who is overweight with gap teeth. Now, everything I said is true. I'm not being mean to Stacey Abrams. She's a black lady. She's a lesbian. Teeth are gapped, a little overweight. And Brian Kemp, I know that upset people, but I had to paint the entire picture. Diane, give me number, give me number, I think I have it here. Give me 64. All right. Following the election, Abrams and her organization Fair Fight filed a number of lawsuits challenging the constitutionality of Voting Rights Act compliance, Georgia, blah, blah, blah. Kemp prevailed by 54,723, defeating Abrams 50.2 to 48.8. Now, he won like a 4-point margin or 5 the second time because people didn't want to see Stacey Abrams on the ballot anymore. But the very first time this lady gets on the ballot, and I'm sorry how it sounds, but you think a black lady, overweight, gap-toothed, lesbian, right? Oh, no, Republicans not going to have any problem with that. But Trump, this is 8 years ago or 6 years ago, whenever it was, 50.2. This is what, now keep this in mind. Trump is president of the United States. This guy gets Trump's endorsement, and he hates Trump. This guy got Trump's endorsement, and he can only pull off the final by 50.2 to 48.8. Do you get that? Are you listening? Now, years later, Trump won't be on the ballot. Now, so we have been working. When I say we, there's several. The legislative session is 3 weeks in. 3 weeks in. There should have been an election integrity task force meetings the day after the election. All these things should have been put on the table. I have told you this. Let me tell you why this stunt, number 71, is happening. Your host, right here, you remember a couple weeks ago? I laid out, we can't win in 2026. We got a problem. If we don't recognize where we're at, who did that? Did you see that from Josh McCoon? Did you hear anything from Josh McCoon? No. But because I am having meetings with people trying to do the right thing, I want to win. I don't give a shit about this guy here. Because I know he that's not his. So he comes out when? Last night? I was at the Capitol yesterday. Keep in mind, I had meetings yesterday. At the Capitol. I was at the Capitol yesterday. And 8 o'clock last night, this came out, which I try to tell you every day, there's spies at the Capitol, and you never know who you're talking to. And I know the minute I got done talking to the individual who called Josh McCoon. Number 72, top Georgia Republicans are renewing their push to only let voters who register at their party member. I'm trying to think of how many people I have met with begging them to close our primaries. The ideal to end Georgia's open primaries, which now allow any voter, has long failed to gain traction. Why is this out? Why is this article out 3 weeks after the session starts? Why is this article out? We won in November. Why is it coming out in February with this guy, right? Why did this guy go to the AJC the day after your host went to the Capitol when we knew last year, we knew the day Trump won that we needed to close the primaries? He's a bad man, a very bad man. And you have some dumbasses out there that still trust him and believe him and worship him and carry his water. We knew after November when Trump got the W that in 2026 we got a problem if we don't close our primaries. But last night, this makes it to the AJC. Well, we're working on that. Bullshit. But Georgia GOP chair says it's time to reopen the debate now that Donald Trump is back in the White House. Now it's time? He released the party's election integrity priorities late Tuesday, which topped by calling for closed primaries. Right after your host went to the Capitol yesterday. Late Tuesday, he got some priorities. Whew. Bakun told Politically Georgia that the party stalwarts are clear that they want Republican voters elected. Let's see. The overall faces odds, blah, blah, blah. There's much more. Folks, this is going nowhere because the legislature's in session and it's well on its way, and they're in budget hearings right now, and none of this is in the budget, and it's not even being discussed. These people are so friggin' corrupt. So friggin' corrupt. And the only way to fix it, number 43, I'm going to close with this. Georgia Republican Party key convention dates, February 22nd, March 22nd, April 26th, and the state convention, June 26th and 7th. Georgia, if you want to clean house, you must start with the Georgia GOP chairman, Josh McCoon, and clean house. I'm way past. It's 11:04. I'm supposed to be done. I will have a lot more on this subject with much more detail. Please let me hear from you. Just say what you want to say. This is where we have the conversation. God bless you. Thank you. I probably need to get out of here, Diane. Later.